Mad Science Films. I'm Jimmy P, filmmaker and sexual astronaut, and as ever, I'm joined by my mysterious co-host,
James Morrissey, one half of the Mad Science Films team. How's it going, guys? So remember, if you like this video, then please hit the like button. If you've been enjoying the Mad Science content, then want to subscribe to our channel and follow us on Facebook. And any comments, leave those in the comment section down below. Let's crack on with the show.
Yeah, boy! Also, guys, please check out our fourth feature film for free. We've chucked it over on YouTube, so just search for Little Monster or click on the link in the show notes below. This week, we are campaigning for a forgotten masterpiece of genre cinema to be given the exquisite Blu Ray treatment. And this week is Jimmy M's choice. Jim, what are you bringing before us?
I'm bringing you a 80s fantasy film called Wizards of the Lost Kingdom. Here's the synopsis. So here we go. When evil screams throughout the world, when all the galaxies converge, when all that's fair and fine seems lost, a hero will emerge.
Beautiful, Jim.
I know.
Little Ted, did you write that? Did you write that yourself?
IMDb brought it to me. I thought it was wonderful. So there we go. This is. I think we were discussing The Bite, weren't we, Curse too?
Yeah.
And about Bo Svensson. And whilst I think we talked about on the review, were we, or was it after or before I mentioned?
No, it was actually in the show itself. Yeah.
Right, yeah. So yeah, I just seen Bo. I was like, yeah, Wizards of the Lost Kingdom. What a great film. And then I think Jim went away and I had a look. And here we are discussing it. It's one of those films. I'm sure we've all got those films. That's such a big part of our childhood. And I remember watching this a few times growing up. And I just enjoyed the ride. It was just such a cool film. A lot of quirky characters, just good. Sit down with a bowl of something nice and just munch away watching this absolute delight. And so brilliant. I mean, this is like Conan for kids, isn't it? This is kind of like an easy stepping stone into that world of fantasy, but without all the too much blood and guts and sex, which you kind of see in the Conan films. But yeah. I think it's a great film. It's got his flaws. He's got his cheesy moments. He's got his somewhat it kind of stretch. I mean, the prologue of this film is a bit. It just seems like it is a bit from the Roger Corman cuts on it of other films. So yeah, I really enjoy it. I thought it was a really good film. Part of my childhood. Love it. Brilliant.
You had a much better childhood than me, mate, because I did not see this as a kid. The cover is familiar. I will go into that in a bit, but perhaps for the wrong reasons. But yeah, I never caught this as a kid. So when you mentioned, you were like, yeah, Bo Svensson, I knew Bo, and you were like, yeah, Wizards of the Lost Kingdom. I was like, I haven't heard of that. So I had to check it out, and yeah, damn, it is a low budget sword and sorcery flick for kids that is really entertaining. It wears its influences very much on its sleeve. I don't think it's any sort of secret that it is Star Wars with the pieces moved around a little bit, It's very much got that Star Wars like overall story of the traditional hero's journey, an innocent goes on a journey and meets adversary and has a mentor character. But so it all gets mixed around a bit. So you've got this Chewbacca looking character, but the Chewbacca character is like with the kid. So that's kind of like almost like a R2-D2. It serves the R2-D2 C-3PO role, following the kid along. Then you've got like the mentor character. So like in Star Wars, again, that's Obi-Wan, but they swap it around. So your Han Solo character becomes your mentor character, and that's Bo. Bo's playing this, rogue type character. He's, like very laconic and, a smuggler, and he's into boozing and women and all that kind of stuff. But what's great, and it's completely just anachronistic to the rest of the film, is he's basically playing it like John Wayne. he's like this cowboy character playing it in the film, and I loved it. I absolutely love it. But at the same time, he's kind of like training up the boy and giving the boy advice, like Obi-Wan was in Star Wars. So, and even more, and this is the one that I think is brilliant and absolutely speaks to your experience, Jim. With Star Wars, obviously, you've got Luke Skywalker, and what's he supposed to be about? Like 17, 18, I think? Like
young,
in
yeah.
They've taken the Luke Skywalker character in this, and they've made it an actual kid. And I think that's brilliant in terms of, you know, if you're at home, on a Saturday morning, munching on your cereal, and you're watching this, like Luke Skywalker is something you can aspire to be, you know, like, oh yeah, that could happen to me when I'm older. In this character, Simon, you know, that could be you right after you finish your cereal, you know. And I think that's what's brilliant about the film. And it's a similar kind of thing that they did way back when in the 30s. So you had the Superman character, right, which was great. And, you know, like kids used to read Superman. And there was this rip-off character originally called Captain Marvel, because of rights issues became Shazam. And the great thing about that was, you know, this was in the 40s, was, you know, it was a little kid who said a magic word and became basically Superman. And there was a point then at which, Captain Marvel, Shazam, was a bigger character than Superman, which is absolutely crazy to think of now. But in the 40s, kids lapped it up because, you know, you didn't have to wait to grow up to become Clark Kent. You could just say a magic word and boom. And I think that's what really connects well with this film. I mean, I'm a kid at heart, so I really enjoyed it, but I absolutely would have no problem showing this film to my kids, and I think they would connect to it too. And as Jim said very rightly, with a lot of these Corman productions or like Italian rip-offs and stuff like that, you've got weird, inappropriate nudity or gore and stuff like that, and you're like, And there's been a few like Italian Star Wars rip-offs I've shown the kids, like Star Crash, and I've had to kind of like go, cover your eyes, or there's some scary shit coming up. But no, they absolutely commit to this being a kids film, a family-friendly kids film, and it's brilliant. So Roger Corman made this and a series of other films in South America back in the 80s. Jim, you were talking about the director Hector Oliveira. So this was made in 85. I think this was in the middle of a bunch of films that Corman produced out in South America. Obviously, I think it was a lot cheaper to make films out there. So Jim, you were saying about a few of the other films that the director made. Have you got those to hand?
Yeah, it was called Barbarian Queen. He's done a lot of other films, not really fantasy though, that I can see. He does a lot of like Two to Tango, The Night of the Pencil, so not really fantasy. So as far as I can see on his IMDb,
wait. The Night of the Pencil?
Night of the Pencils, which is
a future episode, definitely.
Something to do with bus fares in Argentina. Totally different to fantasy films, but maybe that's one we look up. I don't know.
But, that's what I love about Corman, right? Is he this was 85, so it's a few years on from Conan. At this point he'd already done like the straight up Conan ripoffs. Then obviously he was looking at doing like a family friendly kind of one. So great, he's getting as much mileage out of this as he can. And then, as you were saying with Barbarian Queen, he's like, okay, what if I took the Conan character, made it a woman, a scantily clad woman, I could double my audience. And there you go. It was a Red Sonja type ripoff, which again, I think off the top of my head, Red Sonja was around about 85 as well. So, God bless Roger Corman, finding a way to get as much money out of every film and, grab as much of the audience as possible. Yeah, you're absolutely right. The prologue is a complete waste of time, has no bearing on the rest of the plot, and is just, like footage from earlier sword and sorcery Corman flicks. So
I guess that's why it's interesting rewatching this, being a lot older. Is at the time you really didn't give a shit, did you? The guy who was doing the voiceover would convince you that this is all part of the actual film and it all makes sense. So it's wizards and swords. I mean, the characters look cool, but you never see them again because it's never true with this film. But it kind of makes sense. It is crazy.
Jumping in, isn't that what George Lucas do when he said, Star Wars Episode 4? It's like, oh yeah, there's 3 other films, kids, just haven't made them yet. So, in a way, Corman is exactly doing what George Lucas was doing in Star Wars.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I guess you can kind of get away with that with fantasy and sci-fi as well. So yeah. I mean, I just look at it now. So Hector, he has got some producer credits for the Warrior and the Sorceress, and for
I watched that one. Yeah, that's David Carradine. I'll flash up the cover. So there's the cover where he's
because he looks hench as fuck.
He's ripped,
beast mode,
ripped, and then in the film he's not ripped. Bless him, and he's pretty much covered up with a shawl because he knows he's not ripped. So that's a fun film. That's very much like Yojimbo. What's the other one? Fistful of Lead. Jesus, what's it called?
Fistful of Dollars.
Fistful of Dollars. Jesus.
Yeah.
Fistful of Dollars. It's the stranger goes into town and plays the 2 gangs off each other and reaps the benefits. So again, that's that film. Roger Corman again, just picking and choosing and knowing what he's doing with that stuff. So. I mean, one thing mythic stories and kind of like just changes the costumes, basically.
Yeah, and I got there's some nice little scenes in this film as well where they toe the fine line between being scary but not too scary. Particularly with the those knights coming back from the dead.
Zombie knights, brilliant.
Yeah, very Evil Dead with the whole join us vibe. You got like the temptress woman who turns into a kind of Black Widow as well. Very of that kind of genre, isn't it? But yeah, I think it's something which, if you're a big fantasy film fan and you love the Conans, but you perhaps think it is a bit too tasty for your youngins, and definitely Wizards of the Lost Kingdom could be that stepping stone, I think.
This is a good gateway drug, definitely, man. Talking about the effects, the zombie knights were amazing. I also like the ghosts in the caves. I thought that was clear, like double exposure kind of stuff going on. But I loved it. And loads of like the painted on film magic effects or whatever. That was all a lot of fun. So as I was saying, I hadn't seen this film, but I thought I had. And I think a lot of that is to do with the video cover, which is, again, going back to false advertising on movie posters. So you've got Luke Skywalker riding on He-Man's battle cat. Is the Luke Skywalker character on the poster supposed to be Bo? Or is it supposed to be Simon?
I don't think I just didn't give a shit, did they?
And then they've got one of the monsters, the Skeksis from Dark Crystal, up in the top corner. And again, do you know what? That's the one where I was like, they probably could have stolen one of the puppets and had that in the background. It wasn't in the back. It wasn't in the film at all. I mean,
literally give a shit, do they? Literally, they just thought, what is a cool looking poster? Well, let's just grab all these other characters from
images and stuff in there. Yeah, I mean, they had the main baddie on there, and that was actually quite screen accurate to him. But that was literally the only bit that represented the film. So I was a little bit disappointed that they didn't even steal one of the puppets from Jim Henson's lab and had him even in the background, guys. Come on.
That's crazy. Could we also give a bit of heads up to the score for this film? I mean, James Horner teamed up with a guy called Chris Young, is it? For the music. So James Horner. I don't think
James Horner worked with James Cameron on a bunch of stuff. And if it's the same Chris Young who went on to do like the Hellraiser soundtrack. So wow.
So really, really good score for the film. So where they probably lacked in actual footage, they probably made up for it in the film score as well.
Some of it seemed very familiar. So I'm not sure. I might need to do a bit of digging on this, but I've got a feeling Roger Corman probably reused it from some of his earlier films. And obviously I'll, flash up and say, no, this is incorrect or whatever. But I've got a feeling some of it's from his sci-fi Star Wars ripoff, Battle Beyond the Stars. Which is kind of Magnificent Seven in space. So I some of it definitely in the final battle, I was like, this seems really familiar. Definitely for a film I haven't seen before. Maybe I've got it wrong. So if I've got it wrong, I do apologize, Mr. Corman.
Well pinched either way.
I mean, he paid
Good
for it,
stuff.
so why not? You know.
I guess. Yeah. Yeah.
No,
Definitely get his
brilliant.
money.
Good choice, Jim. A lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I feel like, my childhood now as a 42-year-old man is finally complete. I can die happy
Yeah.
now.
You're welcome.
So, Jim, one thing we should mention is this is actually out on a bare bones Blu Ray release out in Germany. But as far as I could see, there's no extras or anything along those lines. But, Jim, if we're going for the big boutique Blu Ray label release, who is the company that you want to put this bad boy out?
Arrow have some. I go for Arrow and I go for 101. I mean, they love their 80s, don't they? Arrow in particular have a classic. This is going to be one of my recommendations. So they have films like Legend, which is up there, one of the great fantasy. 101 films. They need to give Lou Ferrigno some competition because they have a lot of fantasy films starring Lou Ferrigno as Sinbad and
Hercules
and whatnot. So perhaps, let's give Lou a bit of competition in 101 film. So Arrow and 101 for me, mate.
Excellent. Do you know what? I really struggled, so I'm just going to steal your suggestions because I think they're both really good suggestions.
It was a tricky one. It
was. And I think you're right. I hadn't realized 101 had put out the Lou Ferrigno sword and sorcery flick. So that seems like a really good mix. So I've stolen those. I'll steal those, Jim. Okay, Jim. You've sat down, you've watched Wizards of the Lost Kingdom, or you've introduced it to your kids, maybe. What other film are you going to follow it up with?
There's so many good. I mean, the 80s were really good for a lot of genres, but particularly fantasy, and there's so many good ones out there.
I think it was at the point where the special effects were up to speed. So I think they just went definitely, man.
Definitely. So I've gone for a few, right? So I've gone for Krull.
Nice. Okay.
I think it's 83 Krull. Liam Neeson's in that one as well as Robbie Coltrane's. There's some good British actors in that one. Willow, Val Kilmer, and
that's one of mine. So I agree wholeheartedly. And again, another Star Wars ripoff, although George Lucas ripping himself off, so that's allowed.
Yeah, absolutely. So the brilliant one, Legend, which I've just mentioned, Ridley Scott doing his fantasy films, brilliant film, Tom Cruise. And Neverending Story, because why the fuck not?
I second that. Again, that was on my list. Definitely Neverending Story. Good call.
So there's mine, mate. There's loads more, but I'll just name a few.
I'll throw up some ones that you haven't mentioned. So I also said Willow, Neverending Story. Great, just fantasy, sword and sorcery stuff for kids. Beastmaster as well. PG. So there's a bit of weird, inappropriate nudity early on, but directed by Don Cascalari, who did Phantasm. I loved Beastmaster growing up as a kid. Mark Singer in a wig, talking to animals and fighting with a sword. Awesome, can't beat it. Masters of the Universe with Dolph Lundgren, sci-fi, fantasy kind of thing going on. But again, that's a great one. Nothing like the actual cartoon, but a lot of fun. Well worth doing. And you kind of mentioned it, Jim, but the Hercules Lou Ferrigno movies. Now, I actually showed these to my kids because they were learning about Greek myths in school. And so Netflix had the first Hercules movie on there by Lou Ferrigno. He did 2 and then Sinbad. They're great fun. They're done by Luigi Cozzi, who kind of made a name for just doing Italian rip-offs of big blockbusters. He did Star Crash, which obviously rips off Star Wars and all of those. So definitely check out that. There's an amazing scene where Lou Ferrigno punches a bear or a man in a bear suit, and he punches him so hard, you then see it float out of the atmosphere and around the planet Earth.
Wow.
So those are my recommendations, but I absolutely agree with your picks there as well, Jim. Some quality, kid-friendly sword and sorcery movies from the 80s.
So many.
Good call, man. Good call. Right then. So that's our recommendations. Have you guys seen Wizards of the Lost Kingdom? What did you guys think? Are there any other movies that you think would pair nicely with Bo Svensson playing a cowboy in fantasy times? Also, are there any other movies that you think deserve the exquisite Blu-ray treatment? And Jim, what else can these beautiful people do for us?
So guys, yeah, remember, if you do like this video, then please hit the like button. If you've been enjoying the Mad Science Films content, then come join us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Again, any comments or suggestions, leave us in the comment section down below. Thank you and goodbye.